Have you ever noticed how certain stories just seem to stay with us? Like no matter how old they are or where they come from, they just stick with you.
Yeah.
It's like with these myths and legends, they just tap into something deeper, don't you think?
It's pretty fascinating when you think about it. It's almost as if those stories are holding up a mirror to our own lives and experiences.
Right.
And what they're showing us are these universal truths about just what it means to be human.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to be diving into today with Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces.
Oh, yeah. Campbell's work was really groundbreaking in a lot of ways. He went really deep into global mythology.
He did.
And what he found was that there's this common structure underlying these heroic stories across cultures and time periods. He called it the monomyth.
So is there like a hidden blueprint then to these heroic tales?
Yeah, you could kind of look at it that way.
Interesting.
You know, it's like a...
Tell me more about the monomyth. What's the main idea?
Well, essentially what Campbell did was he identified a pattern of stages that these heroes typically go through on their journeys.
Okay.
And he broke those stages down into departure, initiation, and return.
Okay. Those stages actually sound pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's a lot more to it than just those three words.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's start with departure. What marks that first stage?
Well, you can think about it like this. It's the call to adventure.
Okay.
Our hero is usually just living their normal, ordinary life, and then something happens that disrupts their world.
It shakes things up.
Exactly. And it urges them to step outside of what's familiar, their comfort zone.
Oh, so it's like that push into the unknown, that feeling of, this is about to get real.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
And a lot of times there's some hesitation there, maybe even flat out refusal at first.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Campbell actually illustrates this with a story.
Okay.
It's the one about the king's daughter who drops her golden ball into a well.
Oh, yeah. And a frog offers to go get it for her.
Exactly, but on one condition.
She has to promise to make the frog her companion.
Yes. And it seems like such a simple fairy tale.
It does.
But you've got that underlying sense of the unexpected, of venturing into uncharted territory.
Totally. And it reminds me a lot of how we face those moments in our own lives where it's like, do I stay within what I know or do I take a leap into the unknown?
Right. And that leap often comes with challenges and temptations right from the very beginning.
Oh, wow. So it's testing their resolve already.
Absolutely. And Campbell even talks about this guy who dreamed of entering this wonderful garden. But when he got to the gate, there was the guardian there that stopped him from being able to get in.
Oh, so he couldn't even get in.
It's like that internal struggle we all have when we're facing something new.
It is.
You know, it's that fear.
Yeah, for sure.
So those early challenges in that departure stage, it's almost like they're preparing the hero for what's to come next.
Yeah, like a boot camp.
Yeah, you could look at it that way.
Okay.
And it's interesting because that's something that we even see with those ancient initiation rites.
You're talking about like those rituals in certain cultures where you had to go through these trials
Exactly.
to become an adult.
It's like they understood that in order to have true growth, you have to have these challenges.
Interesting.
And they weren't just tests of strength or anything. They were pushing those individuals to confront their fears and to come out on the other side transformed.
Wow.
Yeah.
That reminds me of that saying, you have to lose yourself to find yourself.
Right.
It makes me think about all the times where I didn't take a risk because I was scared of what I didn't know.
Sure.
It's like maybe those were my guardians at the gate.
Maybe so, maybe so.
And that leads us to the next stage, right? Initiation.
That's right.
So this is where the hero actually ventures out into the unknown.
Yes.
And they're going to face trials that test their courage and resilience.
Campbell describes it as a descent into the belly of the whale.
Oh, wow. That sounds intense. What kind of trials are we talking about here?
Yeah. Think of it as going down into this deep unknown, and I mean that both literally and metaphorically.
Okay.
One of the best examples I think that Campbell uses is the myth of Inanna.
Okay.
She was this powerful Sumerian goddess,
Okay.
and the myth is about her descent into the underworld.
Hold on. Even a goddess has to face trials.
It just goes to show that nobody, not even a deity, can escape having to face those darker parts of existence.
Wow.
Inanna's journey is all about confronting death, loss, and her shadow self.
That's intense.
It is, but by doing that, she's able to reach a greater wisdom and understanding.
Oh, so it's not even just about the physical challenges. It's about facing those inner demons and anxieties that we all have that we try to avoid. So we talked about the departure, that initial call to adventure, and the initiation where our hero is facing those challenges and going through that transformation.
Right.
But what happens after all of that?
Yeah.
What does it even mean to return from this journey?
The return.
Okay.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
Good.
Because it's not just about coming back from some physical journey or whatever. It's really about how you take all those changes and make them part of your life.
Yeah.
And then also being able to share those insights with other people, too.
Okay, so it's like bringing back the elixir or something.
Yeah.
That special knowledge, that wisdom.
Exactly, you got it.
Okay.
If you think about all those classic myths, often the hero comes back with some kind of boon, something super valuable they can share with their community.
Right. Like Prometheus. He steals fire from the gods.
Yeah.
And he brings it back to humanity even though he knows there are going to be consequences.
Exactly. He's willing to face punishment.
Wow.
To share that gift.
Yeah.
And I think that really shows how important it is to take those hard-won insights.
Yeah.
And bring them back to the world, even if it's not easy.
Even if it's not comfortable.
Exactly. And it might not be comfortable.
For sure.
And speaking of not comfortable, you mentioned that the return itself can be a challenge.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, imagine you've gone through something life-changing.
Okay.
Something that's totally shifted your perspective.
Okay.
But when you come back, everything is the same as you left it.
Yeah.
It can be jarring.
It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Pretty much.
You're different, you've changed, but the world around you hasn't caught up yet.
Yeah, and Campbell actually illustrates this really well with a story.
Okay.
It's the one about Orthseen.
Okay.
He's this Irish hero, and he travels to this magical land called Tir na Nog.
Okay.
It's the land of eternal youth, basically, and he spends, I don't know what he thinks is a few years there.
Okay.
But when he comes back to Ireland, it's like hundreds of years have passed.
Oh, wow.
So even though he's missed home,
Yeah.
he wants that familiar feeling. It's not that simple.
It's not the same.
No, it's not.
Wow.
He's different, and the world he left behind is different.
That's intense.
It is, and it's kind of a sad reminder that you can never really go back home again.
You can't go back.
Not as the same person.
That's a really powerful image.
Yeah.
It makes me think about even just like going on vacation or going to a retreat.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to get back into the swing of things.
Sure.
But that's just a small taste.
Right.
What if you came back from something that totally changed your view on life or death or why you're even here?
Right. How do you make that fit with your everyday life?
You'd be speaking a different language almost.
Exactly. And that's the tough thing about the return.
Yeah.
It's about figuring out how to close that gap, how to take what you've learned and use it to live a more genuine and authentic life.
So how does that relate to us? We're not out here fighting creatures and going to the underworld.
Right.
What does the return look like in our normal everyday lives?
Well, just think about some challenges you've faced.
Right.
Like changing careers, maybe pursuing something creative, or even just getting over some personal obstacle.
Yeah.
Those can all be like mini heroes' journeys.
Oh, so anytime we get out of our comfort zone and we face those fears and learn something new, we're kind of on that path.
Exactly. And the return is really just about how you weave those experiences and lessons back into your life.
Okay.
How do you bring that new strength, wisdom, compassion to your relationships, your work, your community?
So it's less about the actual slaying of dragons and more about how we show up in the world.
Yeah. How
How we use those experiences to make some kind of positive impact.
Exactly.
I love that.
So tell me, what are some dragons you're facing in your own life?
That's a good question.
What are those things holding you back?
It could be anything. Maybe procrastination, self-doubt, societal expectations. Yeah.
All of that.
Things that don't resonate with me anymore.
And overcoming those things, that's your initiation.
Yeah.
And then figuring out what to do with that, that's the return.
I like that a lot.
How do you use that to empower yourself and the people around you?
It's all about recognizing those patterns, those heroic moments that are happening in our own lives.
Exactly.
And then using them as fuel for growth and positive change.
You got it.
Not just for ourselves, but for the world around us.
And that's one of Campbell's main points,
Yeah.
This isn't just some made-up storybook concept. It's
Right.
a real part of what it means to be human.
Yeah.
It's something we go through over and over again throughout our lives.
Wow. It's pretty incredible how these really old stories still feel so relevant today. It really makes you think about how universal the human experience really is.
Yeah. It's remarkable. And, Campbell really believed that these weren't just stories.
Right.
They're reflections of what's going on inside of us.
Oh, wow.
He put it like this: psychology misread as biography.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
It reminds me how we tend to interpret these myths in a really literal way, but there's this whole other level there.
Right.
When you start to look at it through that lens of psychology.
Exactly. Like, that story Campbell mentions about the woman who dreams about being chased by a white horse.
Oh, yeah. What about it?
And then it turns into a man, but with horse-like features.
Yeah, it sounds kind of creepy.
Yeah, a little bit.
How does Campbell explain that one?
Well, he says that it's about confronting those parts of ourselves that we haven't really dealt with yet, like those powerful forces that we try to keep hidden or just flat out deny.
Okay.
So that horseman represents something primal, something instinctual that you just can't ignore.
Okay, yeah. So like those parts of ourselves that we consider the shadow aspects,
yeah,
the ones we don't really want to admit, are there, but they're still part of us.
Exactly. And even though they might seem kind of disturbing,
yeah,
Campbell says that facing them is essential if we want to grow and be whole.
That makes a lot of sense. And it reminds me of that idea of the refusal of the return that he talks about.
Oh, yeah.
Why would someone not want to come back to their normal life after they've gone through this huge change?
Well, it's like that story about the prince who spends, I think it's 6 days and nights in this magical castle, and he's totally enchanted by it. But when he finally snaps out of it, years have gone by in the real world.
Oh, no.
And so he leaves something behind, like a token.
Oh, wow.
Almost like he's trying to bridge these two realities, but he can never really go back to the way things were.
A part of him is still stuck in that magical place.
Yeah.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Like when you've been on this amazing trip or retreat, and you want to hold on to that feeling.
Exactly.
But it's so hard to make it fit with everyday life.
It's like you've seen the world in this completely different way.
Yeah.
And now you have to figure out how to live with that.
Right? Like, how do you even talk about it?
Exactly. And that's the real challenge for the hero.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to close that gap.
Yeah.
And find a way to live authentically, even if it means leaving parts of their old life behind.
Wow. Campbell says that rituals and symbols can play a part in all of this.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, think about it. We still have rituals even now.
We do.
Like graduations.
Oh, yeah.
Weddings, funerals.
Right.
They help us mark those big changes in life.
It's like they give us a way to understand those transitions.
Yeah.
Because sometimes words just aren't enough.
Right. And Campbell also talks about how a lot of these myths, especially the ones where the hero dies symbolically, they have that element of rebirth or resurrection.
It's not just a physical death, though, is it?
No.
It's more about getting rid of your old self.
Exactly.
To make room for a new, more authentic one.
Like in that Japanese myth where the sun goddess Amaterasu, she comes out of a cave and she brings the light back to the world.
I've heard of that one.
She was in hiding for a while, like a symbolic death.
Yeah.
But then they lure her out with this really happy dance, the celebration of life. And that's what breathes new life into the world.
It's a good metaphor for when we're feeling lost or stuck.
Right.
Like even when things feel dark, there's always a chance to start over.
I love that. And, even though these stories are ancient, Campbell truly believed they apply to us today.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He even used examples from modern literature and psychology to prove it.
So what does it mean to be a hero now? It's not like we're fighting off griffins or anything.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
Maybe it's about facing the modern day dragons.
Okay, I like that.
Like social injustice or environmental destruction.
Yeah.
The things that keep us trapped in these cycles of suffering.
So the battlefield is here. Not in some far-off land.
It's in our communities, our relationships.
It's in our own minds.
Exactly. And so the elixir the hero brings back.
Okay.
Maybe that's a vision for a better world.
Oh, wow.
A world that's more just and compassionate and sustainable.
I love that.
A world where those heroic values of courage, compassion, wisdom aren't just nice ideas, but things we actually live by.
Wow. So we all have the potential.
We do.
To be heroes in our own lives.
Exactly.
That is such a powerful thought.
It is empowering, isn't it?
It is.
And Campbell said it best. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek.
What a great quote, and what a great question to leave us with.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the hero's journey. And remember, like Campbell said, it's a journey we go on throughout our lives.
Absolutely. And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe your journey will inspire someone else to start their own.
I love that. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.